My name is John Riley. I live in Lucerne, Switzerland. I was initially born in the UK in London, and yeah, I've been doing coaching with Vinnie for about a year and a half. And I knew this must be quite a special guy because if you've ever seen Vinnie, like no offense to him, he does look quite a violent, brutal, just I see it, just came out of jail kind of guy. And I thought, my mother usually doesn't speak to those kind of people, so I thought, wow, this guy must be very, very impressive. And he quite truly is. So yeah, that's how we started working together. People quite often have their demons and their problems, and they already know that. And the problem with that, I feel like, is sometimes you already have your prejudice, you already have what you really want to do. I feel like if you're going into diving into something completely new, something you haven't even diagnosed yet, that's where the maximum benefit can sometimes be, because you're obviously not even thinking about it, you're not working about it, it's completely oblivious to you. So that's where we sort of started, and I'm assuming he has like some kind of a structure and ideas on how you can improve your life. For me personally, I was working on, I'm still a very, very young person, so I was working on my value system. And then obviously the harder part is how to implement that in your day-to-day life, whether that's communication, whether that's discipline, fitness related, health, nutrition related. So that's sort of where we got started. And then obviously the longer you go on and the more trust you build, you dive into specific things you're battling with and questions you have, basically questions about life, are really more for me as well. He's a very, very talkative guy. He's very relatable. And I was most impressed with him on how easy it is to talk to him. I come from a very, very different background he is from, and I'm also assuming I'm from a very different background that most of his clients are from. Culturally, I'm European, he's American, he's a lot older. He is, I had a much, much more privileged childhood, which I'm eternally grateful for. But it didn't really, I didn't feel, it was the first person, I'd say, in my life to that extent of openness, lack of judgment. Um, so that was truly phenomenal, and it builds a foundation for trust to actually, I wouldn't call him a therapist, but to tackle your kind of, real problems. I would say the first few lessons are a little bit more on the surface, obviously. You're still building that kind of rapport. So yeah, I'd say a very, very likable experience and probably the most impactful person in my life currently, even above my, maybe my parents and friends and stuff like that. And that's from a guy I've only met, once or twice in real life. So I found that quite incredible. From what you can externally see in my life, I'd say, various addictions many people have regarding to, maybe social media, especially at night, lack of sleep, training as well, impact to martial arts. Technically, he knows a lot as well. So I'd say on most of these things that have been passively consuming my life, I hadn't noticed the hours draining away on my phone. I think a lot of young and older people actually face that kind of battle. And that to me was a very, very substantial improvement. I never thought, like, as I said, I'd never even diagnosed the problem. And I never thought I could get rid of it in that kind of manner. And it's really, he's basically gifted me in this way 3 or 4 hours to do what I want to do with the people I love on a daily basis, which is truly beautiful. I'm eternally grateful for that. I quite often like to evaluate people based on their book recommendations, and I have to say, if anyone needs any book recommendations, Vinny is absolutely fantastic. He's great in the science. He knows exactly what he's doing. I've not yet to have a bad recommendation from him. And one of those were actually, it's called Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg. And we've been working on that kind of stuff, communication in general, how to make your conversations, I'd say, work for you rather than just needless friction. And in aspect communication, I feel like we've improved a lot, whether that's in relationships, family, with friends. Um, I feel like I've got a lot of deeper connection with most people. Yeah, so I'd say that's the second thing, and we're still currently working on, but I've felt quite a lasting impact in. I would genuinely am a person who thinks trying things is important, and if you're even vaguely between doing it or not doing it, I'd say just give it a shot. And I don't think I really need to say much else because once you're in the session with him, even on the first couple of lessons, a bit more on the surface, you will be convinced straight away. Whether I'm assuming I've never been or listened into one of his sessions with other people, but it's so, so tailored to me, the sessions I have with him. And I'm sure he tailors it to every single client he has. I think you will feel the impact from day one. And it's almost like you're I'm genuinely, it's really a highlight of my week. You'll be looking forward to your next session every single time. There is no friction. And I think, as I said, that comes from him being just a nice guy to talk to as well. Break from your daily life. I really think there needs to be no convincing. Just try it and you'll notice straight away. For me personally, hours in the day to save through him. I, as already discussed, save hours and hours and hours by doing full time, spending time doing things I would like to do with the people I love to do things with. So he's actually gifting me time in that regard. And for me personally, financially, he's been very helpful because I've become so much more productive. So actually, for both things, there is a net positive effect, quite substantially. So I'd say it's probably my greatest return on investment financially and time wise I've actually ever received. So